How to become mentally strong. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 8 secrets for building epic mental strength right now. Hey, my name's Alex and I'm here to help you with conscious personal growth so you can feel strong and maximize your positive impact on the world. And if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any new videos. If you're going through a tough time right now, I feel for you. I know what it's like to feel like crawling onto the sofa and curling up into the fetal position because it's all just become too much. But no, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and we're lucky that YouTube is a great platform where we can share tips and tricks that have helped us get through the dark times, which are also the same tools and skills we need to face everyday challenges, especially when we're moving out of our comfort zone and tackling something new that we're perhaps learning the ropes of or have never done before. So without further ado, here are my 8 tips for building epic mental strength right now. The first important thing to remember is when facing a challenge, it's not always strength that's required per se. We can look at what appears to be mental strength in other people and think that they must just have this enormous willpower to resist and push against every challenge that they face. And sure, sometimes it is about power. Sometimes it's about being able to push through. If you're at the gym lifting weights, for example, that's called resistance training because you're having to push through a resistance. But not every situation calls for mental strength as we typically think about it. It's not always about resisting. Sometimes it's about accepting. Sometimes it's not always about pushing things away. It's about allowing things to move through us. Let's say that the company you're working for starts hemorrhaging money and eventually they have to let you go. You get made redundant. You're now jobless and you don't know when the next paycheck is going to come or even if you're going to be able to pay the bills. It can be tempting to think that all we need to do in that situation is be mentally strong, to push and resist against the fact that it's happened. And yes, at some point soon, you're going to have to take action, right? You're going to have to get a new job or build a business or do something else that's going to start bringing the money in. But first, you have to accept your situation. First, you have to accept it's happened because internally resisting it is going to create all this tension and low mood and panic, wishing it never happened and wishing you could go back to the past and change things, but you can't. What you can do is accept where you're at so you can feel relaxed enough to take the next step. Alex Honnold climbed Yosemite's El Capitan, a 3,000-foot vertical wall with no ropes. A single mistake would have cost him his life, and of course he had to do years of practice and preparation, visualization and stretching and strength training to make it even close to possible. But being strong was only part of the picture. Once all the preparation was said and done and he was halfway up the wall facing the most challenging and awkward part of the cliff face, he had to have acceptance. He couldn't just hang there panicking and wishing he was somewhere else. He had to allow his mind to relax, accept the situation, and take the next step, and the next step, and the next step until he reached the summit. Alan Watts made this beautiful analogy. We are all floating in a tremendous river, and the river carries you along anyhow. Some people in the river are swimming against the current, but they're still being carried along. Others have learned that the art of the thing is to swim with it. You have to go with the flow of the river. There is no other way. You can swim against it and pretend not to be flowing with it, but you still are. A person who is not making that pretense anymore and knows you have to go with the river and swim with it, suddenly he acquires behind everything that he does the power of the river. So sometimes it's about going with the flow and accepting the situation no matter how challenging it seems. It's not that you don't take action. It's not that you don't do anything to change the situation for the better. It's that you accept where you're at first so you can feel calm and clear-headed enough to take the next step. The second thing to do is to face challenges regularly and head on. To do 1 or 2 things every day, or maybe at least every week, that are tough. You see, if you're going to build mental fitness, it's a lot like building physical fitness. If you're lifting weights down the gym, the only way you're going to build strength is to push through into a place outside of your comfort zone. You curl a heavy weight, 1, 2, and 3, and that feels okay. But by the time you get to 8 or 9, you're up against massive resistance. You're outside your comfort zone, and you really have to exercise your ability to push through and crack out that 10th rep. And it's those last few reps that create all the little micro tears in your muscles, which once healed means next time you're stronger. Next time you can lift heavier and do more. So you can train your brain much like you train your body. You can do something that challenges your mind every day and get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like when I first started this channel, standing in front of the camera, I was completely terrified. It felt awkward and forced, and it was extremely uncomfortable to even begin to think about what I was going to say. It felt like I really had to push through my complete incompetence and practice and practice and practice, no matter how awkward and challenging that it felt. And it's still challenging to some degree, but every time I face that challenge, every time I push through and get it done, I get better and I get stronger and I become more able to find it easier to do it the next time around. So like another thing I do is take cold shower every day, even if it's just for 30 seconds or a minute. And although by now I've got really used to taking them, I still feel that internal resistance just before whacking the temperature dial round to what feels like freezing cold. Part of me definitely doesn't want to do it, but every time I do and every time I break through, I'm building mental strength. I'm fostering the ability to face challenges head on. And often I feel amazing afterwards. And remember, the most mentally strong people have often faced great adversity in their life. And that's so important that I'll say it again. The most mentally strong people have often faced great adversity in their life. So the third thing is to stop doing something. Stop beating yourself up about past mistakes. We've all done things in our past that we could feel embarrassed or ashamed about, but ruminating about them for hours and beating yourself up isn't going to solve the issue or change the past. Sometimes we remember something we did in the past and we feel guilty about it. And then maybe it's useful to consider whether there's any useful action we can take. Maybe there's someone it will be good to apologize to, or it'll be good to give something back that we took from someone else, or do something positive off the back of the realization that something we did in the past was negative. Sometimes it's useful to make a plan about what to do and how to approach the situation if something we did in the past gets brought up again in the future. But more often than not, we simply need to forgive ourselves and recognize we're not that person anymore. It can be tempting to think that we don't deserve to feel good now because of what happened before. That, like, we have to pay penance for our sins by mulling over them for hours or days on end until we feel suitably terrible, but ultimately that won't make a positive difference to your life or anyone else's. What will make a difference is learning from your mistakes and bringing positivity to the world off the back of them. Maybe helping people to avoid going down the same path that you did, or turning that guilty feeling about what was done into the fire you need to make positive vision of the future a reality by turning your focus onto what can be done and who you can help. And so the fourth thing to do is to have a vision. When you have no idea where you're going or what you're doing, it can feel hard to have the strength to do anything. Having a compelling vision pulls you towards it. Having an emotionally charged reason for doing something gives you the charge and energy you need to take action. And so how do you have a vision? You dream, you explore, and you imagine. You trust that at some point the vision could reveal itself to you. You ask yourself questions like, what if? What if it was possible? You visualize something you want to create or something you want to happen. You see it in your mind's eye and you ask yourself the question, what is the next step I need to take to make this happen? You do one thing at a time, taking one step at a time, and as long as you're always moving forward, even in zigzags, there's a pretty good chance that eventually you'll get there. So have a vision for what you want and what you want to do, what you want to create or who you want to help. And that leads me on to the fifth thing to do, and that is to do it for someone else. Earlier this year in Paris, a young man scaled the outside of a building to save a child hanging from the balcony on the 4th floor. He climbed up from the ground to the 4th, pulling himself up from balcony to balcony and lifting the child to safety. It hit the news channels after a video of the event went viral and people were calling him a real-life Spider-Man. In that moment, when he saw the child up there desperately needing help, he was suddenly moved to take action. He wasn't standing there worrying about whether he had the strength. He saw the urgency of the situation and suddenly seemed to gain superhuman strength. And there are many other accounts where people seem to gain superhuman strength and superhuman courage to save or help someone in need. We know of people who even fly out to war zones to put themselves in great danger to do their part in helping the people out there. Now, for most of us, it's not every day that we come across war zones or children hanging from 4th floor balconies. But the point is, we often get motivated to find the mental strength to take action when we're doing it for someone else. If someone you love is in desperate need, you suddenly feel energized enough to try and do something about it. But often we forget the people that we can help, or maybe even in some small way are already helping. Even if you're working on the tills, stacking shelves in a convenience store, you're helping the people who shop there to stay fed and nourished, or to buy a nice bottle of wine and have a well-earned relaxing evening. You might be doing it so you can just pay the bills and your partner doesn't have to worry about whether between you two you can earn enough money to buy the next meal. Or perhaps you're doing it so you can brighten up their life by eventually saving enough money to take a nice holiday together. And some of what I mentioned may seem petty or trivial, but it's about remembering the people that we're helping and who we're doing it for, and having a vision around the people we can help in the future. There's always new things you can learn and new things you can do that will help someone else. When I'm doing these videos, if all my focus is on whether or not I'm going to say the right thing or get enough views and likes and subscribers, I'll get bogged down in all the technicalities and a useless internal conversation about whether or not I'm ever going to be good enough. If I can keep in my awareness and in my mind the people who benefit from this information, the people who might benefit from this information, the people I might be able to help, that helps motivate me and push through the challenges and keep on creating. So ask yourself the question, who needs my help? Who needs me to step up? What skills do I need to learn and what obstacles do I need to overcome to really become effective at helping people? And that leads me on to the sixth thing to do, and that is to see obstacles as learning opportunities. There's a Zen proverb that says, the obstacle is the path, and every obstacle presents a chance to learn and grow and become stronger. The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius said, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. So it's about remembering these ancient philosophies that have helped countless people reframe their challenges as an opportunity to build persistence and strength. our experience has a funny way of really testing us just before we break through and reach new heights of success. And when you're really in the thick of it, it can be hard to see yourself as like on the verge of a breakthrough, but you so often are. And when it seems like you've been at it for ages, sometimes it takes just a little more digging. And so the seventh thing to do is to have the confidence that you'll figure it out. Being mentally strong and having the confidence to face challenges isn't always having complete confidence around what you're doing. Maybe what you're facing is something completely new to you. Maybe you want to do something but you have like no idea how to proceed. There may be things that you have to learn or new skills you have to practice over and over until you're really good at them. And it could be anything from learning social skills and how to talk to people, or how to resolve a conflict, or create a successful YouTube channel. You can't be confident that you know how to do it all right now, of course not. But what you can be is confident that with time, you'll figure it out. Everybody has to learn and everybody has to figure it out. It's part of being human. And if achieving success in any area wasn't hard, everyone would be doing it, and you'd have so much competition that you'd never be able to break through and stand out from the crowd. And rather than putting all your happiness on the end result, rather than saying, I can't be happy until I've done this, or I can't be happy until I have this, you can source enjoyment from the process. So that's the seventh thing to do, to enjoy the process and to laugh and smile along the way. Now, I know that seems like an oversimplification, but even studies in neuroscience tell us optimism increases grit and endurance. And one simple way to do this is just to smile more often. The act of smiling activates neural pathways that benefit health and happiness and help to release the feel-good transmitters dopamine and serotonin. We all know that people use humor as a coping mechanism, and yes, sometimes it can seem like everything's dark, but if you look hard enough, there's usually a funny side. Laughter gets us through the dark times. We know this. Laughter helps us to feel that little bit better so we can accept our situation and possibly even gain a little more strength. Strength that we need to move through the challenge. And so the eighth thing to do is to meditate. Even if it's just for 5 or 10 minutes a day. Regular meditation increases optimism, endurance, grit, and helps us to feel mentally strong. And I have a video on meditation techniques for beginners that will come up on the end screen if you want dead simple ways to incorporate meditation practice into your life. But before you click onto that, hit the like button if you found what I've said useful. Leave a comment below with your thoughts. I read every one of them. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos on conscious personal growth. Peace.